From Montana's news leader, this is the MTN 10 o'clock news.
Good evening and thanks for joining us tonight. I'm Russ Riesinger. A summertime tradition in Billings will live on. The crack of the bats will once again fill Dealer Park for professional baseball, as we now know that the Billings Mustangs will be back with a few changes though. But first, breaking news at this hour. One person is dead and 5 blocks of Broadwater Avenue are currently shut down. This is a live look at the scene right now. Now, this all happening just before 9 p.m. Details are scarce right now, but according to a Q2 reporter on the scene, the crime scene investigation team has arrived and Broadwater Avenue is blocked off between 3rd Street West and 8th Street West. CPR was performed there at the scene. We have put in multiple requests to speak to a sergeant, but so far the Billings Police Department has released no information about what happened. We will update this situation on air and online as it develops. Well, baseball fans can look forward to more summers of watching the Billings Mustangs at Dealer Park. The team's future had been up in the air since Major League Baseball's decision to constrict its minor league system, eliminating many teams. And while the Mustangs will return to Billings, they will no longer be an affiliate of the Cincinnati Reds or any major league team, but it will still be professional baseball. Q2 Sports Director Scott Breen has the scoop on what's ahead.
Well, the good news, Billings will have professional baseball this summer. The so-so news, it won't necessarily be Mustangs baseball we've grown to know over 67 years. The Mustangs and all 8 Pioneer League teams will become members of a Major League Baseball Partner League. That means your Mustangs transition from affiliated partner status with the Cincinnati Reds to an independent team. It's an announcement that brings closure to months of uncertainty surrounding the future of professional baseball in Billings.
And you hit the nail right on the head. I mean, it is an audible, huge sigh of relief.
One of my first questions, will they still be called the Mustangs? That answer is yes. According to a joint release this morning from Major League Baseball and the Pioneer League, all squads will maintain their existing names, brands, and logos.
I don't know, what Dave Heller's plan is for here at this particular time, but there's been no mention of changing the Mustangs name, no mention of any of that sort of thing. Right now we're looking at a 92-game schedule. That could change one way or the other a few games. We haven't really looked at the calendar specifically about, is it going to be 92, is it going to be 90, is it going to be 80? So probably means a little bit earlier start for us, perhaps early to later in May versus mid to late June.
Last summer would have been the 68th year of minor league baseball in Billings, but COVID-19 eliminated that. No minor league baseball was played anywhere across the country. Monday's announcement brings closure to a year when major league and minor league owners have engaged in an absolute street fight over what's next. The pandemic certainly didn't help, accelerating contraction talks and inhibiting fans from giving teams like your Mustangs a proper farewell. It also just happened to hit in the final year of a deal between minor league teams and Major League Baseball owners who want to take complete control of player development, save money, draft fewer players, and keep them geographically closer to home, meaning closer to big league cities. Within the process, 42 minor league teams, including the Mustangs and all others in the Pioneer League, were thrust onto the chopping block of no longer being considered minor league affiliates.
We're going to see kids that are free agents that are not drafted through the Major League Draft. We also have access to players that have been released by Major League organizations. So the pool of players is going to be larger. We know that. It's just going to be up to us and the other 7 clubs to go get their players.
So there you have it. Mustangs will be back next summer. In all likelihood, will keep their name, likeliness, and logo, and will be professional baseball. In the Pioneer League, they'll simply not be affiliated any longer with the Cincinnati Reds or any other Major League Baseball team. Scott Breen, MTN Sports.
All right, thanks, Scott. The Pioneer League joins the Atlantic League, the American Association, and the Frontier League as an MLB partnership. In one last bit of 2020 election news, Montana's election results were officially certified by the Secretary of State today. This afternoon, the State Canvassing Board met in Helena, compared the state and county voting records to make sure all the votes were accounted for. The state canvass is the final step to make the election results official. The Montana Free Press reported the canvass caused no changes to the projected outcomes of major state or federal races. Republicans swept the statewide races for Attorney General, Secretary of State, governor and lieutenant governor, with Greg Gianforte, of course, besting Mike Cooney this year for the governor's seat. President-elect Joe Biden has announced more members of his administration as President Trump continues to fight the validity of the election results. CBS News correspondent Skylar Henry reports from Wilmington, Delaware.
It's a big day for President-elect Joe Biden and Vice President-elect Kamala Harris. They received their first full intelligence briefing and held meetings with transition advisors. Tuesday, they'll officially announce members of their economic team, and Biden will nominate Janet Yellen for Treasury Secretary, who would be the first woman to lead the department. Cecilia Rouse will be named as chair of the Council of Economic Advisors, and Neera Tanden will serve as White House Budget Director. Mr. Biden remained home here in Wilmington, Delaware Monday. He's recovering from hairline fractures in his foot after being injured playing with his dog over the weekend. President Trump was also home at the White House with no public events on his schedule. He tweeted about his personal lawyer, Rudy Giuliani, holding a hearing detailing alleged election fraud with some Republican members of the Arizona state legislature.
This signed and sealed document now constitutes the official canvass results of the November 3rd, 2020 general election.
At the same time, officials in Arizona were certifying the state's election results. Election officials, including Georgia Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger, continue to maintain there was no widespread fraud.
There are those who are exploiting the emotions of many Trump supporters with fantastic claims, half-truths, misinformation, and frankly, they are misleading the president as well, apparently.
In his first interview since the election, President Trump told Fox News nothing will convince him he lost the election. Skylar Henry, CBS News, Wilmington, Delaware.
Well, CBS News has learned that Mr. Biden has three top candidates for defense secretary: former Obama-era defense official Michelle Flournoy, retired Army General Lloyd Austin, and former Homeland Security Secretary Jay Johnson. Also today, Dr. Scott Atlas resigned from his position on the White House's coronavirus task force. Atlas turned in his resignation letter to President Trump this afternoon and wrote, quote, "I sincerely wish the new team all the best as they guide the nation through these trying, polarized times." The Bullock administration announced today it will scale back COVID-19 relief reimbursement for local governments in Montana. The administration originally allocated $300 million of federal aid to help cities and counties with expenses related to the coronavirus pandemic, but now that's being reduced to about $200 million. Governor Bullock's office says local governments will still be made whole for the new COVID-19 expenses through December 31st, such as overtime pay and additional staff needed to respond to the health crisis, but it says items that had already been budgeted won't be reimbursed. Bullock says the money not spent on local governments will go toward grants that help small businesses and enhanced unemployment benefits for those out of work. Local governments have been submitting requests for reimbursements for costs since this summer. The new requirements apply to expenses occurred after October 31st. As Congress comes back into session this week in Washington, it remains unclear whether it can agree on another bill offering pandemic-related relief for businesses and other entities or individuals. Now, both of Montana's U.S. Senators, Republican Steve Daines and Democrat John Tester, tell MTN News they'd like to see a bill passed. Daines said he's introduced several bipartisan bills, including ones that would forgive prior loans to small businesses or offer relief to businesses with fewer than 50 employees. He says he'd like to see them passed or incorporated into a larger bill. His office also says Democratic leaders in Congress have rejected earlier efforts to compromise. Well, Tester says a bill should be targeted at specific needs such as health care costs, the hospitality industry, the unemployed, and schools and colleges. Tester wrote a letter today to Senate Republican and Democratic leadership saying it's time to stop assessing blame and get a bill passed. He tells MTN News negative effects from the pandemic are getting worse and a substantial aid package is needed now.
We could get a bill out that have $1.25 trillion, between $1.25 trillion and $1.75 trillion in it that's very, very targeted. I think it would do a lot of good for the economy. If we want to let these businesses fall through the cracks, if we want to let local governments default, I think that's really, really bad practice, and it isn't good for our long-term economic health.
Tester also says he believes that President-elect Joe Biden is supportive of a COVID relief package. Montana health authorities report 25 more COVID-related deaths so far today, along with more than 650 new cases. The latest deaths reported out of Silver Bow, where the county saw 7 new deaths tonight. Yellowstone County and Stillwater County saw 2 more deaths, while Bighorn County added another one this afternoon. At this hour, MTN reports a total of 717 COVID-related deaths across the state. Turning to Chief Forecaster Bob McGuire, quiet here for the most part, but winter is kind of rearing its ugly head in other parts of the state.
It's not a great deal of snow, but it's a little bit of snow, and some of it kind of measurable. Let me show you. Here's a threat board, and as you can see out in west central Montana, from basically Wallace, Idaho, all the way down towards Missoula, we have a winter weather advisory there, and we're looking at maybe 2 to 4 inches of snow through 5 a.m. this morning. And then you'll notice here, a little farther to the north up of the Rocky Mountain Front Range, we're looking at maybe 3 to 5 inches of snow there with this advisory. That stays with us until 10 a.m. Then a little farther south into central Montana around Great Falls, Lewistown, and also into Marr County, looking at maybe as much as 3 to 6 inches of snow. That stays with us until noon. And right now, you can see the snow showers already making their way into the region. A couple of scattered light snow showers moving through basically the Beartooth Mountains. So far, it looks like this stuff is not heading to the Billings area, but it's going to be close to us. So that's why we have a slight chance for snow in the morning. We'll talk about that in a few more minutes. Russ?
Thank you, Bob. More water problems on the campus of MSU Billings as a Monday afternoon water main leak has affected several buildings, including the drinking water and bathrooms. Affected buildings include the PE building, Cecil Hall, Rimrock Hall, the Student Union building, and McMullen Hall. No one should use the restrooms, showers, or drink the water in these buildings until further notice. According to MSUB officials, employees at McMullen Hall are encouraged to work from home tomorrow if possible. Porta potties and drinking water are being delivered. Well, as the season of giving approaches, Zoo Montana is gearing up for its annual Zoolights drive and wagon ride. Zoolights is open to the public starting December 5th from 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. Now, if you plan on driving your personal vehicle, tickets range from $10 to $20 per vehicle. Wagon rides start at $14.95 for adults, $8.95 for the kids.
The best thing about Zoolights this year is it is the only event that we're able to do here at Zoo Montana this year, and so this year more than ever the funding that we receive from Zoolights is going to be so incredibly important. Best thing about Zoolights though is it's a family tradition. This is something people have done for decades with their family. We enjoy people to come on through, drive through the behind the scenes, see some lights, listen to some Christmas music, and just have a good time with the family. And best of all, in the safety of your car, socially distanced with your family. You can't get any safer than that.
Ewald says wagon rides will be restricted to 16 people this year, and if those 16 people are not family, then masks will be required. Still to come on the MTN 10 o'clock news here on Q2, a record-breaking Cyber Monday nearly in the books. But locally, small businesses have been seeing an online boom well before today. That story coming up next. Then a little later in sports, from the pitch to the gridiron, a college athlete kicked her way into history this weekend. We're going to hear from her coming up in just a bit.